In October 1996, Lara Croft made her first ever appearance in Tomb Raider for the Sega Saturn. The game was a timed exclusive in the PAL region, with versions for the PC, PlayStation and US region on the Sega Saturn following weeks later. This was a smart move by Sega in theory, but in reality the timed exclusive period was too small to capitalise, and the developers had to rush out the PAL version with some additional bugs and an unobtainable secret in the system level. It is often overlooked that the Sega Saturn is the original home to Tomb Raider, as the game would become synonymous with the Sony PlayStation. Tomb Raider was a pioneer with groundbreaking 3D graphics that helped shape the future of 3D game design. While other gaming developers struggled to transition from 2D to 3D games, Core hit the ground running and Tomb Raider became a worldwide hit. I remember getting Tomb Raider for the Sega Saturn when it first came out and being amazed by the capabilities of my new 32-bit console. Although the game was very challenging, especially if you wanted to find all the secrets as well. Lara Croft was very marketable and featured in not only gaming magazines but also mainstream magazines. Meanwhile, Tomb Raider received excellent reviews, with the official UK Sega Saturn magazine awarding it 92%, Mean Machines 94%, Saturn Power 95%, and Total Saturn awarding it a massive 97%. After the success of the first game, it didn't take long for Tomb Raider 2 to be announced as in development for the Saturn, PlayStation and PC. Then came the shocking announcement of the Saturn version of being cancelled, with magazines stating Eidos claimed the Saturn was not capable of running the more advanced engine of Tomb Raider 2. In reality, they had signed a deal with Sony to make Tomb Raider a console exclusive to the PlayStation, although it would still appear on the PC. This was a big blow to Sega, and I remember being very disappointed as a Sega Saturn owner. It looked like the last time we would ever see Lara on the Sega Saturn would be sliding down the ramp at the end of Tomb Raider 1. While the main games continued to be released for the Sony PlayStation and PC, a separate team started to release official expansions, with the first known as Tomb Raider Unfinished Business in Europe and Tomb Raider Gold in America. The expansions would only release on PC, and Unfinished Business would use the original game engine and add 4 new, bigger, more action-packed levels. Around a year and a half ago, a video appeared on the YouTube channel of JRTombRaider showing a work-in-progress version of Unfinished Business for the Sega Saturn. Unfinished Business is running on the original Tomb Raider Sega Saturn engine, but what's very impressive is, despite the fact the environments are much larger in Unfinished Business, slowdown looked to be kept to a minimum. Since the first video was shown, JRTombRaider has made incredible progress on the game, and for the last 8 months I've been one of the official playtesters. After 27 years, Lara has finally come home to the Sega Saturn. I have been given exclusive access to a review copy, and all footage in today's video is taken from PAL region on real Sega Saturn hardware. So let's take a look at the 4 new levels, starting with the first level, Return to Egypt. When the level starts, you drop down into familiar territory, and one of the first things you will notice is there's new ambient music playing in the background. And also, when Lara exits water, you will hear a new breathing sound. This area is the same area you visit in the original Tomb Raider level, City of Carmoon. If we compare the two areas, we can see there are some differences. Most notably, in Unfinished Business, it's now filled with water, and the enemies are now crocs. The lighting is also different, which gives the textures a darker appearance. In similar fashion, the next area is also from the City of Carmoon level of the original game, with similar differences. Strangely, the original Tomb Raider game for Sega Saturn did not feature the handstand move in any region, despite improvements made in the US and Japanese releases. Unfinished Business rights the wrongs of the original game, and the handstand move can be performed at any time when climbing by holding the L shoulder button, and it looks spectacular, despite not adding anything to gameplay. Another really cool feature in the Egypt levels is if you go close to the cat statues, you can often get a glimpse of an upcoming area in the level. Unlike the original game, ammo is plentiful in Unfinished Business, so there's no need to conserve it, just go all out. Some of the environments in Unfinished Business are truly breathtaking, with an impressive draw distance, and gone are the black skies of the Lost Valley level, with stars now lighting up the sky. Save points are back, and you're going to need them, as Unfinished Business is more difficult than the original game. Death will be a common occurrence when you first start to play. The game can be quite frankly brutal. The end of the level takes you to a very large outside area that looks visually stunning. The frame rate in this level performs very well, although there can be some slowdown when being attacked by enemies in this last area. The developers reward players who explore outside the boundaries, but don't go too far or it's death. Moving on to the second level, Temple of the Cat. This is my favourite level in Unfinished Business and one of the best levels in the whole of Tomb Raider 1. You start the level with some ammo to collect before pulling a lever and also noticing that there is some enemies frozen hidden behind a railing. This is a common occurrence in the game where you will see enemies frozen and know they're going to come alive soon. You then make your way to the outside area where you get a spectacular zooming out of the level, which is a new feature which wasn't featured in the first Tomb Raider game. This area looks visually spectacular with a fantastic draw distance and a frame rate that holds up really well considering the size of the area. There's so many areas in this level where you want to stop and just admire the view, and also now you can do the handstand. It's also a novelty to do that. This level also features some really good animation graphics as wall textures, which were not in the original game. However, a lot of the textures used in Unfinished Business are taken from the original game, but the areas in Unfinished Business are noticeably improved in the visual department. This area presents Lara with a large amount of ammo, and you know them 6 mummies are going to attack sooner or later as you solve the puzzle. If you set off all 6 of the enemies at the same time, there is some slowdown, but unless you shoot them from a ledge, you'll be dead before you notice. The amount of texture variety in this level is excellent, with each section of the level having a distinctive look. We can now take a look at my favourite room in Unfinished Business. The room appears to have nothing inside, and if you can avoid the booby trap and escape with your life, what's the point of the room? I will reveal all in my Let's Play, but the developers got very inventive with the game design of this room, and the reward is very clever if you can figure it out. The end of the level again sees Lara in a massive outside area, where she needs to make her way to the top and solve a puzzle to exit the level. Again, this has spectacular views. We then move on to the level Atlantian Stronghold, which sees Lara sliding down the same ramp we last saw her in the original game on Sega Saturn 27 years ago. The main area features clever level design and intertwining rooms. It was this innovative design that ultimately led to the level being able to be speedrun in less than a minute. In fact, the world record is currently 48 seconds. The amount of enemies and difficulty increases in this level, and a lot of the areas have glass walls and floors that you can see other areas, which really gives the level a sense of scope. There is a couple of instances in this level where it's difficult to judge when you're meant to drop down into a room, but thankfully they're few and far between. In this area, if you pull the lever, you get a great model shot of the enemy waiting for you at the end of the level. And what's even cooler is if you go and look through the glass wall next to the lever, you can see the centaur stalking the area. I think this is absolutely fantastic level design. As you make your way to the next area, you can hear the lava sound effect has been fixed. That was missing from the original Tomb Raider PAL version. The lava textures look really bright and hot in this area, which I think looks fantastic. JRTombRaider has done an excellent job of strategically positioning the save crystals around the level, so it is challenging but it never feels impossible. The deadly spikes return and you can play it safe and hold the left shoulder button to walk through them, or you can go all out and jump them, but one wrong move and it's death. As you can see here, I caught my leg on them and nearly lost it. You then climb upwards and make your way to the top of the level. Once you're at the top of the level, you are presented with what is, in my opinion, one of the best jumps in Tomb Raider history, as you perform a stunning swan dive right down the hole towards the end of the level. The fourth and final level is the Hive, and it starts off with a room full of boulders that drop from the ceiling. It is very trial and error and can be quite frustrating when you first start playing it, and you will almost certainly see the deaths rack up. However, if you watch my Let's Play, I will show you a really easy strategy of how to do it I have come up with. Once you have done that room, you then start making your way down into an underground lava area that looks visually brilliant. Now, similar to the boulders at the start of the level, for the second half of the level, the developers went with a more is better approach and decided to throw as many enemies at Lara as possible. It's certainly challenging, but I would have liked a little more balance with the puzzle solving as well. However, on the bright side, despite the developers going enemy crazy, the frame rate holds up really well. As you approach the end of the level, there's a brilliant area that pans out when you collect the ammo to show you're surrounded by enemy statues, just waiting to pounce. A little tip for you, once you set them off, get back to the centre platform to be safe. I can't help think with an excellent room like this that the level should have ended here, but it continues for a little while longer. There's also no story or FMV scenes in Unfinished Business, which could have been a nice touch by Core. Secrets are back, and there are 10 to find over the 4 levels. Some are fairly easy to find by going slightly off track and climbing, or pulling levers and finding underwater hidden caves. However, others, particularly in the Temple of the Cat level, have been hidden really well by the developers and are quite difficult to find, which is a welcome challenge. The last level, the Hive, only has one secret though, and I think they could have added more to this level. I am a big fan of the secrets in Tomb Raider as they encourage multiple playthroughs, and it's highly unlikely you'll find them all on your first playthrough. Another thing you don't really see in the first Tomb Raider game is enemies in the secret area. It is then up to you whether you want to use your reward ammo or you're going to make a run for it and see if you can get out with the ammo alive. I am a big fan of the excellent new ambient music that's playing in the background as you play. These were not in the original Tomb Raider game. They really add to the atmosphere, and I know JRTombRaider worked really hard to implement these and get them to re-trigger after setting off secret chimes. So let's turn up the volume and have a listen. JRTombRaider has produced Unfinished Business in 3 regions, with each region using the original engine from that version. Each version therefore has differences, with the PAL playing significantly slower and having no cheat codes. However, it's the only version that's compatible with the Sega Saturn keyboard. Let's take a look at the US version running on real Sega Saturn hardware. Now, the US version runs a lot faster than the PAL version, providing it's being played on US or Japanese hardware. Cheats are available in this version, however there is no keyboard support. The US version, like the PAL, has a normal difficulty setting. This version will most likely be the version most people play, but for PAL players it does tend to feel like Lara's had 10 cans of Red Bull until you get used to the extra speed. I think the preference on which region you will prefer will likely come down to whichever region you grew up playing. I do like playing the US version for speedrunning, but the slower PAL version is probably easier to perform jumps on. The Japanese region is similar to the US version, with it running quicker and cheats work. This is the best version for beginners, as it's like playing the game in easy mode. This is because enemies can be killed with less bullets. For example, panthers only take one close-up shotgun bullet to die. As if JRTombRaider hasn't done enough, he's also created a separate expert mode that uses the US region. In an interview with the developers by the YouTuber Tomb of Ash, it was revealed that the level order in Unfinished Business was changed at the last minute. I would highly recommend you watch that video, and I'll leave a link for it in the description. The first level should have been Atlantian Stronghold, which makes perfect sense as the level begins with the same ramp you finished the original game on. However, starting this level with no ammo or weapons and having to use the pistols against the harder enemies makes it really difficult. The next level is then the Hive, which was previously the last level. Expert mode is a fantastic addition by JRTombRaider and is based on the original idea for Unfinished Business, as further described by the designer Phil Campbell in an interview by the Tomb Raider's Traveller's Guide, of which an extract can be seen in the bottom right hand corner of the screen. After the first two levels you move on to Return to Egypt, but to make it more difficult, you're stripped of all your ammo and weapons that you gained in the first two levels and back to the pistols. And expert mode ends with Temple of the Cat. I thought it would be fitting to finish the review by scoring Tomb Raider Unfinished Business using the same categories used by gaming magazines in the 90s: graphics, sound, playability and lastability. On top of them, I have also added a new category to rate the Saturn conversion work done by JRTombRaider. Firstly, let's look at the graphics. The environments are massive in Unfinished Business when compared to the first game, and there is also a higher level of detail and variation of the textures, giving the game a better look overall. It's also excellent to see JRTombRaider has added in the handstand move finally on the Sega Saturn. Anyone who's played the original Tomb Raider system level will know that the game suffers from quite a significant drop in frame rate, particularly in that level. However, despite the much bigger environments in Tomb Raider Unfinished Business, the frame rate is better than expected and only suffers occasional drops. Of course, this is Tomb Raider, so there is some bugs and glitches you will find because it is using the original engine, but who can honestly say that they don't love doing a corner glitch to skip bits out? Overall, the original Tomb Raider was a very good looking 3D game for the Sega Saturn, and Tomb Raider Unfinished Business improves on the graphics of the first game and looks even better with its bigger environments, so I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. Next we're going to look at sound. So the new ambience music is absolutely fantastic. It works even better, I think, if you play the game with headphones on. You can really hear it then a lot better. But you can hear it in the background and it does really add to the game atmosphere. Also, there's other little sound effects like the water surface breathing and some sound effects fixed that weren't working in the original PAL version. That's good to see. Sound effects used in Unfinished Business from the original game also have improved quality. However, unlike the original game, there is no classic Tomb Raider theme played at certain parts of the levels. For example, the system level where you walk out and you see the big open area, it really does add to the experience in my opinion to come on at certain moments, although it would have been far too easy for them to overuse that in this game with there being so many spectacular moments. For sound, we're going to give Tomb Raider Unfinished Business an 8 out of 10. In terms of playability, Tomb Raider Unfinished Business has the same fantastic gameplay of the original Tomb Raider, but throws in more action. The game can be quite difficult at times, but there's a real sense of achievement in moving past areas where you were stuck on. In the original Tomb Raider Unfinished Business for the PC, there were no save crystals and you could save at any time you wanted. However, in the Saturn version, JRTombRaider has placed around save crystals and he's done a fantastic job to strategically place them round, so it's not too difficult, but it is challenging. For playability, we're going to give it a well-deserved 9 out of 10. Next, we are going to look at the game lastability. At first glance, it looks like there's only 4 levels, so there wouldn't be a lot to do, but these levels are absolutely massive, and there's also 10 secrets to find within these levels, which means you'll be doing multiple playthroughs. With the Japanese version being significantly easier because the enemies take less bullets to die, then you've got the medium versions, which are the PAL and the US versions, and then JRTombRaider has gone above and beyond by creating his own expert mode, which is based off the original order of the levels before it was changed just before release. You can also try your hand at speedrunning the levels, and Tomb Raider Unfinished Business has got one of the best levels in Tomb Raider for speedrunning. The Atlantian Stronghold level can be completed in less than a minute. That's the challenge for you, to do it in less than a minute. The world record is 48 seconds, and I myself can do it in 49 seconds. A lot of fun can be had with speedrunning this game, and also it's the perfect opportunity, I think, to play the original Tomb Raider and then play Unfinished Business when you finish the original game. If you do it like that, then you've got 19 levels and 55 secrets to find. That's some mammoth task and a real challenge. For lastability, we're going to give it an 8 out of 10. We then move on to the Saturn conversion. In my opinion, JRTombRaider has taken Sega Saturn homebrew conversions to a whole new level. The attention to detail they've put into making this conversion faithful to the original PC is absolutely amazing, and I know that was so important to them going into this project to make it faithful to the original. In my opinion, I don't think the game could play, look or perform any better on the Sega Saturn unless a new or upgraded engine was used. I think the work JRTombRaider's done is absolutely fantastic. Tomb Raider Unfinished Business is not only the best game since the 90s released on the Sega Saturn, but it is also one of the best games for the Sega Saturn period. It improves on the original game in almost every way, and the Saturn conversion is a credit to the fantastic development skills and work that JRTombRaider has put into the game. If you play one game this year, I would say play Tomb Raider Unfinished Business. I'm going to give the Saturn conversion a 10 out of 10, and overall I am going to give Tomb Raider Unfinished Business for the Sega Saturn 9 out of 10. If you haven't already, go over to JRTombRaider's YouTube channel, give him a subscribe and watch the Tomb Raider Unfinished Business official trailer. If you enjoy Tomb Raider and the Sega Saturn, I'd also highly recommend you check out the 2 ROS mods for Tomb Raider on the Sega Saturn. I've got videos on my channel. Another mod that I would also highly recommend is the Sega Rally mod by ROS. And if you like your football games, check out the Worldwide Soccer 23 update mod, which I released myself earlier in the year. If you've liked this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. My channel covers everything Sega Saturn and also gets a lot of exclusives for Sega Saturn homebrew games. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.